everyone, this is Pico Entertainment and we are back again. And this is going to be a quick non-spoiler review of the movie Bloodshot. This is a movie adaptation of a Valiant Comics or comic book character, chronicling the adventures of Ray Garrison, who is a soldier who is essentially killed in combat, and following that his body gets taken away by a secret agency and he's kind of regenerated into this super soldier, if you like, with special abilities and nanotech powers. And we go on in the story, he finds out more about his origins and the reasons, you know, for his newfound abilities, where they come from, and we delve more into the history of the agency and what goes on behind that, and he makes more discoveries, and then the story evolves on from there. So that's really kind of the main synopsis without giving too much away. This stars Vin Diesel in the title role as Ray Garrison. It also stars Eiza Gonzalez. We have Toby Kebbell, if you remember, he was in movies as such as Rock and Roller. He was also in Fantastic Four, and he was in the Ben-Hur remake as well, amongst other things. So he's always been an actor. I think he's got the talent and he's got the ability, but I don't think he picks the scripts or picks the roles that I think are worthy of his talent. I think he's a much better actor than kind of the films that he portrays himself in. You know, another actor you could say this a lot that's in this role as well is Guy Pierce, or I think is a really good actor, really competent, very versatile actor. Again, this is the kind of standard movie I think, you know, is kind of below his talents on here, and I think, you know, he's okay in this movie as well. So that's kind of the main kind of cast on here. And yeah, this is kind of an action, kind of science fiction, kind of thriller on here. As we learn about the characters and their abilities, it's kind of a really mesh, if you like, between what is a standard revenge flick, and then we get a bit more of a much more technological kind of feel to it. Kind of, you get elements of RoboCop and $6 Million Man and The Matrix as such. It's kind of, those are the kind of territory that you're trying to delve into with this movie. And unfortunately, this movie doesn't deal with those elements as well as those previous movies does on it. It's kind of those films that it's standard. It's very standard. There's actually interesting concepts and developments that it could have used that you go along with the narrative. So basically, you think it's going to be a standard one-note narrative, and as you go along, you get a development here and you get a twists and turns here. And as watching it, I was actually quite interested. I thought, this is actually quite an interesting development that we're going off here. You know, this is keeping me more engaged. It's not quite as predictable as straightforward as what I thought it was going to be, but it never builds on those elements. It kind of stays rooted in that generic action adventure, when I actually think there was more scope for it to delve more into the science fiction elements. You know, how does this nanotechnology work, you know, and how is it fusing with his abilities? We get this kind of notion between if you have an emotional impulse or an emotional reaction fused with the abilities of nanotechnology or a super soldier, or fusion with machinery or artificial intelligence, you know, getting that perfect balance together, that's when you can really create the ultimate super soldier. So there was little sort of scenes and dialogue which, you know, I felt were more interesting on it, but it never really concentrated more on that. It just wanted to be more on a straightforward kind of action flick. And there were some action sequences that were very well done, very well staged, but there were other action sequences that, again, it's just typical of today's movies, where you've got constant booming soundtrack and effects, you've got all these quick cut edits shot from all these quick cut angles, and, you know, it just doesn't pull you in. It leaves you a bit disinterested. You just can't immerse yourself fully in these action sequences. Everything is just happening quick. You know, it doesn't take the time to really set up and stage any amounts of tension or jeopardy or peril. He's kind of again, just maybe too capable, too powerful. There's not many two times when Ray Garrison is really kind of overwhelmed, or you think he's really going to get overpowered, or he's really in any kind of real sense of danger as such on there. So again, it just felt a bit just throwaway and disposable throughout. And I just wish they built more on those interesting concepts that were potentially were there, but it just didn't want to do that. It was just basically Vin Diesel doing all these extraordinary things with these extraordinary abilities, and that was basically it, really. I did like, in some aspects, the visual aesthetics of the and design of the character as such. The way we kind of see the nanotech fused with his body. If you look at the trailers and the promotional material, you'll see his kind of rib cage light up in red whenever he's kind of exhibiting his powers. And there were some cool visual shots of, you see his eyes sometimes, it would generate into a certain contrast or a different color, maybe dark blue or dark grey, and we get slow motion shots of him as he's walking through and he's fending off bullets and explosives, etc. Some visual shots were really good, but I just think a lot of the time it just had this really messy, chaotic feel to it. And again, this goes back to when I think you really want a more capable, experienced director who can handle the spectacle, handle the action sequences, but still give you that more character development. Another good example, if you like, is Minority Report. I know it's not identical plot or concept, but that's another one where you have very much a science fiction story, which is also a chase thriller, but Minority Report gave you a lot more into kind of the science concepts, right? The science fiction elements. That's what made it more engaging, and I just wish that Bloodshot would have done the same sort of thing. If you look at other movies such as Total Recall, again, very much action orientated, but you still got a lot more of those interesting concepts that it dealt with on there. The actors themselves were okay. I didn't really find a fault in any of their performances. Vin Diesel does all right on there. He's one of these actors that I think he's very well liked amongst general audiences, and I think there is this kind of desire to see Vin Diesel kind of break out of the Fast and Furious franchise and become an action superstar in his own right. You know, a bit like kind of Dwayne Johnson, if you like, on there. I can remember going way back when we kind of saw Vin Diesel come to first prominence with the Fast and Furious movies, and then we had XXX, and that was the point when really people were deeming him to be the next kind of Arnie, and you're really already fighting an uphill battle because no one can beat Arnie. Arnie is that unique brand. Dwayne Johnson had similar comparisons, but I think Dwayne Johnson has a lot more, if you like, charisma and screen presence rather than Vin Diesel does. He just doesn't give enough weight to this character. It's not bad, it's not terrible, but really you could have cast anybody in this role. I think it's more of a flaw of the writing. We just don't empathise enough with Ray Garrison as a character. We don't get enough time to empathise enough as a character. It's literally something happens to him, and then we get it when he's testing his powers, he's testing his abilities, and then off he goes. And it's just quick. You just don't have time to build or focus on the character. I will admit that the Eiza Gonzalez, she did caught my eye. She's very, very attractive. She's very hot. She's wearing all these skin tight outfits. She did okay in the role as well. She was very capable on there. Again, she was the one that had connection most with Ray Garrison. Again, they didn't really focus on why she's so heavily connected to him. There was no real emotional weight to the relationship between their characters on there. There was no real long-lasting chemistry between the two. I thought that Guy Pierce actually was quite good in the role. I know he's had some criticism from people who reviewed this movie, but I actually thought he was probably the most consistent or the best performance. Again, there's nothing too extraordinary about his role, but he's just more consistent performer. I had more conviction and more confidence in his character than what I did in others. We have the Wiggins character. I just thought was annoying, very irritating, just not convincing how this guy can basically be 1-2 steps ahead of everybody else. He's just this very awkward, socially just nerdy kind of character. He just annoyed me to death, So yeah, just overall very generic, just disposable action thriller that had potential. It had good concepts. I think it could have focused and built on more. I just wish it was focused more on being a science fiction, futuristic storyline as opposed to a generic action adventure. It just really didn't go for anything more. It was never really too ambitious in what it was trying to do. on there. It looks really good officially in HD, by the way. As we know, this was a movie that really was only cinemas for, I think, for 1 week, and it got shifted straight to streaming. You know, following the issues with the coronavirus as such on there. I don't think this would have been a movie, even if we didn't have the virus, that would have been a massive box office success anyway. I just don't think Vin Diesel is that big enough of a box office superstar outside of the Fast and Furious movies to carry weight. I mean, you could have put Scott Adkins in this role, you could have put Jason Statham in this role, and it would have been no better or no worse off for it. So yeah, that's my just quick non-spoiler review of Bloodshot. If I were to give it a score rating, you know, sadly it'd probably be a 5.8 out of 10. I just think this is, you know, it's not I've seen worse movies than this, and it's one of those movies you can have in the background as you're playing with your phone or you do other things, and just flip back and forth to it as such. Just nothing too special, just very ordinary, very generic, nothing too impressionable, nothing too memorable about it. But, you know, if you have maybe an hour and a half, hour and 45, hour and 50 minutes to spare, well, I'm guessing you're going to have a lot to spare now in the current situations that we're in. You can stick this on, and, you know, yeah, it looks great in HD. You know, you get, you know, quite a lot of action sequences, special effects. You can just chuck it on and just watch it as you do, you know, be mildly entertained. I think that's the best way I can describe this. Be mildly entertained. You're not going to get nothing more or nothing too much less. I think there's other movies, as I mentioned before, that have done this concept far better in terms of the characterization, in terms of the action, in terms of the concept, in terms of the themes. There's other movies that have executed all of those elements far better than what this movie has done. So yeah, that's my just quick non-spoiler kind of review on this. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Did you enjoy this movie? Did you not enjoy this movie? Do you think that Vin Diesel can one day break out of the Fast and Furious franchise and just become more of a box office superstar? Even though I know the idea of a sole box office superstar selling a movie is practically becoming extinct now. We get so few of those type of actors around these days now. But I think Vin Diesel has a certain likability and a popularity as such. If you just give him the right script, the right role, maybe he can be more of a, you know, individual superstar as such. But those are my comments. Let me know what you think below. Stay safe, keep your distances, wash your hands, and hopefully in a couple of months we could just come out of this whole virus situation and just get back to some sort of normalcy and have cinemas come back in the theatres, so we could just review more new content and new movies that are coming up. But those are my views for now. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you very, very soon.